Hello and welcome back to 30 Wordy and Friendship. My name is Alia Bogdanoff.
And my name is Whitney Ensom.
And today we're going to talk about asserting yourself.
It's a good one. Because we all need to work on this.
So this kind of spawned from the topic of communication that we wanted to talk about. We wanted to make it a little more specific. So we thought, well, we didn't. My husband, Voss, came up with the name asserting or assertion. And we liked it because it means that, like, really the burden is on us to speak.
Absolutely. Well, I guess we'll start with what is asserting ourselves look like for each of us. So, Alia, what does it mean to assert yourself?
So I think that in the past I was not really good at expressing myself, expressing my needs. I don't think I was really good at talking about what I wanted or what I needed from others. I feel like I didn't think I could, or like I feel like I didn't have the right to ask people for things. I didn't have the right to say, like, I needed more from this relationship or hold people accountable to their actions or what they said. I really just wanted people to want to be friends with me and to like me. And I feel like it just took a really long time for me to realize that when you do assert yourself, it's to grow the relationship. I didn't like the idea of putting a friendship, in my opinion, like on the line. Because somebody could be like, hey, I need more from this friendship, or it really hurt me when you did this. And they could be like, well, that's hard to deal with, so peace out. And they could leave. And I really couldn't deal with the potential of losing people. What do you think? How do you define that, Whitney, for you?
Like, you took the words right out of my mouth.
Sorry.
No.
Stole them.
You stole them, you thief. But it's good. Yeah, so I feel the same way where the last episode, I feel like that word worthiness was really meaningful to me. And I feel like that's where I've come from. So that I'm worthy enough to ask for what I need, that my needs are important, and they're as important as someone else's.
Wow,
so,
I like that.
So asking for what I need, we risk people leaving, we risk vulnerability, we risk as a recovering people pleaser, as I've mentioned before. I'm like, but you need to like me for just how I am, but that's like a passive person. So asserting is being uncomfortable with communicating, but at the end I'm more proud of myself because I've asked for my needs to be met, because I know that I'm worthy to have my needs met just like the other person is.
Do you ever have that moment where, like, someone has bothered you, someone has done something that hurts your feelings, and you're like, the first thought you have is like, I'm gonna say something, and then your brain goes, no, you're not. You are not gonna say something. That is the worst plan ever. And then you spend the next 4 days convincing yourself it wasn't that bad. Or what I do is I analyze it, I tear it apart. Like, they said it, but I don't even need to involve them. I mean, they hurt me, but like, they hurt me because I had something. I'm just going to deal with it on my end and not say anything. And it used to bother me in the scripture where it'd say, like, go to your fellow brother and work out. And I'm like, no, I'm not talking to them about what they did. It just seemed so scary. And the few times that I was able to do it, it was great. But I still, to this day, get so scared about telling somebody that what they did hurt me. And I want so desperately not to injure them in the process. And I want to be understood. And I don't want to look like a weak little baby for being hurt. I'm not 5. So trying to be an adult and communicate those needs and assert myself in a way that is both very open and expressive, but is also vulnerable.
Yes.
And I always want to sound really smart too, because I want to sound like I've got it. I know what I'm talking about when it comes to my own feelings.
I hear you on that. And I think in that scripture, I think the idea is, restoration. And that's the idea. And I don't know about you, but I feel better after I've done that, because I'm not carrying that weight around of feeling frustrated with that person when really I'm frustrated with myself that I didn't ask for what I needed. So the most loving thing for both of us is to, I don't know, kind of bridge that gap and not have it be weird. So the sooner I ask for what I need and kind of let it be the first thing, the better the relationship is. So there's not always a need to go back and fix it. It's like, this is how our relationship is. Our relationship should be we deserve to ask for what we need or communicate this thing to be being assertive, and then the relationship stays healthy. But it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable sometimes, and our brain does want us to be quiet sometimes. And we're like, no, you have to go against the grain.
Okay, can I ask a question that's not on our question roster?
Because we have a yellow piece of paper with questions. Yes.
Okay. I've always wanted to do this with somebody. Can we role play? I'm not even kidding. Can we role play?
It's like I'm back in school.
What it sounds like to talk to somebody about something. Okay, so you're gonna be the person who does it because you're better than me at it. I'm not kidding you. When I try to do it, I freeze. I like to say that like I'm almost never without words until I have to confront somebody, and then I have to prepare for a week. I feel like I have to write a speech. Okay. So we're friends. We're gonna do it on the fly. Okay. We're friends. And the last time we hung out, we're gonna pretend that I said something offensive to you. And I have no idea that I did it. Oh, we'll use the old one. I said the word crazy. Remember you didn't like the word crazy? I said the word crazy.
Was this when before we broke up?
Yeah.
Oh,
and
I don't remember that.
You just want to clarify with me that it's kind of a buzzword for you, and and you want to confront me about it. You know I have no idea, and can you role play with me?
What I should have done?
No, because I think you actually did talk to me.
Oh, I don't know that
you
I
did, and you did a great job.
Back then,
but no, you did a great job. No, you did a great job. But you role play. Okay.
So Alia, the other day when we were talking, you said something about someone being crazy, and I know that your heart is you're a very loving person. I think for me that word is difficult since I've worked with people in the past who've had mental health issues and my struggles with anxiety, and I feel like maybe crazy wouldn't be the most appropriate word. I choose to say bananas. Just kidding. We don't add that part in. But yeah, so what do you think about, I just want you to know that kind of bothered me. This doesn't really bother me. Okay, it did bother you. It did bother me. Okay, yeah. So maybe use a different word maybe next time. I don't know. Was that really bad? This is really.
That was really good.
Was it?
Yeah. Okay. And then my side.
What was your side?
I would say, oh wow, I didn't realize that bothered you so much, and you're right. When I say it, I don't mean crazy in that way. I'm using it as like what's the word, like a explorative. I made that word up.
You did. It's really fancy too.
Maybe someone can know what I'm talking about.
Sure.
Explorative.
Explorative.
Which just means like I'm using it as a word, as a placer to say that was, like that was insane, that was crazy.
For sure.
It's very urban. So yes, but I can watch myself and just be patient with me as I try to remember, because I know I'm probably going to mess up a few times, but I really appreciate that you express that to me, because now I know where you're coming from.
And now I know where you're coming from. I know you didn't mean it to be hurtful, so thank you for clarifying. And, we all make mistakes sometimes, so I still care about you, still love you, and if you say it again, no problem, but let's work on, I'm glad we talked about this.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Well, that was
real quick, I want to reflect on what you did. You did a great job.
Thank you.
I think
you did too.
I've heard of people talking about this before, is like when you confront somebody, it's really good tip to explain to them that you understand that they probably didn't mean to, because the other person, the first thing they're thinking is like, oh my gosh, I hurt somebody. I need to spend all my brain energy not listening to them right now, but coming up with either an excuse or a reason, or I need to defend myself because I feel so bad that I hurt them. And that probably comes from just years of being confronted really incorrectly. But you did a great job of explaining how I must have been thinking and feeling, and that I'm not that type of person. Something I learned a long time ago that I really love was that you can point out to somebody like, that's not your personality. It's not your typical behavior. It's not your mode of operation to do that. And I understand, but you had like an action that was off, and it makes the person feel like justified. Like, yeah, you're right. I'm not a mean or cruel or thoughtless person. And you validate who they are as a person, but then you say, but there was an action that you did that was hurtful, and we just want to focus on the action, not as you as a whole. Like, you are a hurtful, insensitive person,
right?
But you
not labeling about
said
the
something
person.
that I took hurtful and insensitive, and I want to just look at that versus label. Yeah, like you said, labeling the whole person is wrong.
So being specific is important when we're confrontation's not a bad thing. It's an action. We're confronting the address. How about addressing? That's less scary. Addressing the thing that bothered us. We're coming at it from a place of seeing the person as they are, who we know, and we're full of faults and they're full of faults, but it's not about them as a person and their character.
Yeah.
It's about what they did that upset us. So being specific is important.
Yeah.
And maybe sounds like maybe sandwiching it with maybe like an affirmation, or at least starting it with that. Because I think any of us on a normal day would be like, oh, and we kind of go into self-preservation and kind of feel
literally
defensive.
got flush, even though we're role playing.
You're like, protection.
I take my blanket off. We're cuddled in blankets right now, by the way, because it's winter. But I'm flush from a role play. That's how intense it is for me. And I don't think I'm alone out there in that confrontation and somebody confronting you about your actions. It makes me nervous because there's been lots of confrontation in my life that was not done well, and that was focused on who I was as a person and tore me down or made me, I think some of the buzzwords that come to mind are like someone calling you selfish. Right. I've been called selfish. I know that I've been told, Whitney, you didn't silence your phone? So sorry. How insensitive.
No. Don't label me.
But, just these labels that we've been told in our life, maybe growing up, from people of power in our life. And I think we carry that. And so the moment... I know that that word selfish, I know that someone has said that to me before. So I feel like sometimes when I'm a very outgoing person, I can sometimes, talk a lot. And so I fear that people are going to think I'm selfish. So whenever there's a topic around selfishness, I get ultra protective. Like, oh my gosh, is it going to happen again?
Are they going to talk about
it happens again because it's for sure I'm selfish. When I think my true heart is not to be that way. It's that I'm most feared of being perceived that way, and I work really hard to make sure that I'm not. And I even check in with myself, are you giving that other person enough attention in the relationship? Are you doing these things, to make sure that they're feeling like they have a part in my life too? And so I'm saying I work hard because it's a tender subject for me. Yeah. And I think in assertion and confrontation, that happens when somebody's confronting us about something that is
a sensitive topic.
Yeah. We it's hard. So the person who's asserting, it's really good to understand that you may be confronting them something that's hard for them to hear, and the best thing you can do is approach them with grace and approach them with, like you said, sandwich it with something good about who they are and what they're doing, so that they can focus on the action, not who they are.
Some people want it, give it to me straight, and other people are like, clap my hands. Some people want it. I think maybe there's some of us, myself included, that need it seasoned with grace. And I think we're all different, but like you're saying, knowing that person, especially if we're in a relationship with them, whether they're our spouse, they're our friend or family member, knowing them and how maybe their sensitivity level, and not in a, they're so sensitive, but sensitivity to that topic or just to the approach of confrontation, it can really make a big difference.
Yeah, and I think that is a really important part to marry to being assertive, is you have to join it with being sensitive, being empathetic, understanding who they are and where they come from. You're not asserting yourself because they're bad, but you're trying to understand who they are, and you're going to get a better reaction out of them. Completely. Because we all know what it's like to confront somebody, for them to deny, back up, and deny more.
And you get frustrated.
Yeah.
Yep. You're like, I know what you did. But you don't say that. Oh, well, what has been difficult about communication or communicating your needs to people in your life, Leah?
I think that in the past, I always think of my parents, like confronting my parents about things. Now that I am a parent, I think I'm starting to understand how hard it is as a parent, because you really do your best. Mm-hmm. And when you're a child and you're growing up and you realize things were done wrong, you want to go to that parent and be like, you were wrong, you did this. Mm-hmm. And then you want them to be like, you're right, oh my gosh, I did do that wrong. And I would say, with my parents, I tried with both and I don't think I got the reaction that I wanted. But now that I am a parent, I'm starting to understand it. Mm-hmm. Disclosure. But I think that when you do that, and then it sets a tone for your other relationships. And so in other relationships, you wonder, can I go and can I confront bad behavior? Yeah. You try it on boyfriends and they break up with you because you're 16 or 18 and they're immature, right? You try it out on immature people, or you don't know what you're doing and you bring it up in a really immature way. And then you have all these bad experiences that build up. Yeah. And then you try to figure it out in your 30s and you've got just like all this baggage you're dragging through. And so that's why I think I wanted to talk about this, because I feel like I'm still weeding out some of that bad baggage. What about you, Whitney?
I'm the same way. I think I think it wasn't overtly modeled for me of assertive communication. I think growing up, I think not in a negative way, but just maybe I didn't notice that. So I learned maybe or at least I became in my communication a bit passive aggressive. So I knew I had needs that needed to be met, but maybe didn't feel confident asking for them. So it was like a passive aggressive, which is not great. It makes the other person uncomfortable, and it makes me uncomfortable after, to where I'm feeling like I messed that one up. And then like I said before, I feel like I didn't, just disappointed in myself. Like I wasn't able to ask for what I needed. And then I start to resent myself when, I didn't ask for what I needed. So I think the difficulty about communicating my needs to others is, mentioned earlier, just feeling confident enough and feeling like I know my needs. I know I'm worthy enough to ask for what I need. So maybe that has been, that's been difficult for me. So our next question would be, you want to say it?
How does this look in different relationships? I was telling Whitney earlier that, with my kids, you have an experience growing up, and it's all done from the perspective of a child, so I don't know how accurate it is. Mm-hmm. But, you have this... I was a quiet child. Can you believe that? I was so quiet.
Shocking.
My brother was really outspoken, and so people would often call me Chucky's sister. I didn't even have a name, which always really bothered me. I was just... Because I was so quiet, and he would talk for me, and so I was this, really... really closed off person, especially when I was little. I remember wanting to say things to my parents, and then not that they weren't available to hear it, just wanting to say it and feeling like I had no voice. And I feel like I really didn't gain that until much later in life. And now no one can shut me up. It's this weird thing that happened to me. Anyway, so with my kids, my son's 3, McCoy, and I'm trying to figure out how to facilitate him having a voice, me not shutting him down. Yeah. But then also not allowing him to rule us either, because when he wants something, what he says all the time. When he's hungry, he just yells, "I want bread! I want bread!" And if you're like, "Okay, I'll make you a sandwich," "I want bread!" Or like, "Okay, I'll make you some veggies," or "I'll make you..." anything I say, he just shouts at me, "I want bread." So I'm like trying to both in my brain listen to him and not be like, "No, you're not getting bread." And I'm trying
Stop asking me.
Yeah, I'm trying not to have these really harsh reactions, but I'm also trying not to be like, "Okay, bread, whatever you want, 3-year-old, you're in charge." So I guess what I'm doing is trying to figure out how to I'm coaching him through. McCoy, if you would like some bread, Mommy can get you bread, but we need to eat something a little bit more than bread. So I'm going to give you this right now. And if you finish it and you're still a little hungry, we can have a piece of bread. So trying to give him a voice, because lately his thing has been just, "Mom," and I don't answer her, "Mom!" It's just this one level, and then and it's I'm and then my reaction is, "Don't yell at me!" Right? And I'm yelling back. And I realized the other day, I'm yelling back, "Don't yell at me." Yes. And that's a really poor. So okay, we make mistakes. So I'm like, oh yeah, that's a bad reaction. I'm going to work on that.
Awareness.
Yeah.
You're aware.
So I'm right. So he's learning his assertiveness. I don't want to shut him down, but so there's, as a parent, trying to walk around that. What about you? What are some areas in your life and relationships that assertiveness is different for you?
Well, I think I've noticed a transition in my current job. So I live alone, and I see people, but I see my coworkers most of the time. And I work with a pretty big team, and I think what I've realized in the last few years of working there is that's where I spend the most time with people, of like, I need, I don't know, little things like, can you help me with this thing? Or I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
That's like me as a professional. I have this, I come with this professional skill set, and being courageous enough to assert that and be on the line for it, and knowing that I might say something that's terrible, but you know what I find? Nothing I say is terrible. In fact, I'm finding that what I'm saying is actually good. As I'm there longer, I'm like, oh, I'm actually kind of getting good at this. And so I think that I've noticed a change in that setting, where working so closely with people, because I don't have children or a spouse, and so I think the most that kind of relationship that the most constant relationship is with my coworkers, and asking for this thing and feeling confident enough. I think, I don't know. Yeah.
I think
there's with that.
You know, I think there's a growth point. But there's a growth point when we're younger and we transition, and everybody transitions at a different age, where you stop just saying, I want this, and not, or just expressing yourself like, give me that, I want that. You need to stop doing this. I want that. You know, there's like this really general where you stop and you realize the way you talk to other people is really significant.
Yes.
And the way you express yourself is important, and that it is better to sit and prepare what you're going to say versus just feeling it off the cuff. I had a old friend say that to me, like, you need to gain a filter. And that was really hard for me to hear. It was in high school. Shout out to Jenny if you're listening. What? She told me to gain a filter, and at the time I had no idea what she was talking about, but then I did. She was like, when you have a thought, just spend a moment before it just comes out of your mouth. Think about it. Run it over in your head, and then look at the people in the room and think about how it might affect them. And I liked having no filter, because I thought it made me fun and quirky, and I didn't have to think about the way I affected others. But I've really, I think, in my life, used that a lot to think about what am I going to say? How is it going to affect people around me? Right. Is it going to affect this person differently than that person? And especially if it's a sensitive topic. And I think that's just a maturity. It's a growth thing.
Yeah, it's nice to see that occur in yourself. Like, I've noticed that, and it's, so I'm communicating less out of emotion. Yeah. Like, I'm finding that I'm not saying it in like a desperate way, like, I need you to understand this, but hey, by the way, say the thing. Yeah. And the response I get, I'm realizing, okay, they could say something negative or positive back, or not even negative, I'm gonna label it, but say they're not upset with what I'm asking. Yeah. Or what I'm saying. And is what I'm saying, can it stand alone without, can I be confident enough saying it, knowing that I might get something back that I don't want to hear, and coming at it from a place of less, like you're saying, you know, thinking it through before saying it in my wise mind, to say it in a way that's, you know, what am I trying to get at? How can I say it with less emotion? Because when I bring that emotion in, then I become really invested or disappointed, or I'm sure it comes off weird. Yeah. Like, so how can I say it confidently, assertively, and just sort of, you know, go from there? So. Okay, so I want to talk about something. Okay. So whenever you have an interaction with somebody and you get hurt, and then you go to a friend to tell them what happened, and the importance of going to people who are mature. Because, we all, we're like, oh my gosh, this interaction happened. I'm going to go tell someone about it. And then you have that friend who's like, oh my gosh, what a total B. Or, I can't believe they said that to you. Yeah. And is very reactionary about it versus constructive. Yeah. I think the best kind of friends, I mean, there's that moment that we all need that person who's like,
what? Excuse me.
Yeah.
Do you need me to beat them up for you? Like, we need that validation
"That's not
reaction.
okay."
And those are the best, right? But then can sit with you and say, okay, well, how do I go about fixing it? And how do I really maturely go about not just react to it and say, like, that's messed up. I hate that. That's stupid. And throw all these superlatives. That's what I was trying to say earlier.
That's a good word. That does sound like a real word.
I'm not really sure the definition, but I'm sure it's a real word. Not just throw all these words at it and then, you know, have this attitude like, psh, whatever. If anyone's made that noise in 10 years, psh, whatever.
You just did.
I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to talk to that person anymore. I'm just going to cut them off.
Oh, yeah.
So there's that person where you go to them and you say, like, I need help. I need help communicating how I feel about it and fixing it. So then, and I have to admit, like, I love when people call me and say, like, I need to confront this person. I need your help. It's one of my favorite things. Really? Really good at helping other people confront others. Me, you know, it's personal, so I'm working on it still, but, like, I'm really good at expressing for others. So, like, structuring it, like, okay, what actually hurt you? Yeah. What part is actually bothering you? And then which way can we word it that will have the best outcome? And the best outcome is, like you said earlier, restoration, growth in the relationship, rebuilding of trust, right? So how do you do that? So you do that by expressing yourself in a way that can be understood, where the other person can understand you, but also invite them to continue to be in relationship with you. Because I think the hardest part about confrontation is, you know, is this person confronting me because they don't want to be in a relationship with me anymore? Are they confronting me because they want to grow from this moment? You know, are they just defending themselves?
And they're going to drop it?
Are they welcoming me in and wanting to grow with me? So
I think that's so easy, at least from my experience. Maybe it's just where I've come from, but to not know how to restore it. Like, and I had a situation recently where I was talking with someone about something that had happened that we both experienced with a different person. And this interaction was needed. It was validating. There was oh, you struggle with that too with the person? Yes. Okay, so it was, and I came with my struggles. It wasn't like a gossip, thing. It was about, I need help knowing what to do because I didn't realize I was feeling this way. And so then the next day, this person said where they were coming from, the perspective they had over time. And it helped me remember, well, I'm still deciding what to do with that relationship, but or maybe I've just some things just kind of fade. Yeah. But kind of, we talked, I think, in the first episode, like, is this something worth restoring? And if it is, am I willing to do the work? And it's easy to go, yeah, I can't believe it. But then to go, I wonder what they must be feeling, having that compassion and being able to say, this hurt me that you said this. And I don't always get those opportunities, but I realize after, I'm most at peace when I've gotten that perspective shift and when I've been called up to act differently than my gut says, which is, you're wrong, I'm right, you hurt me, cut off, because that is so easy to do, but we feel so much worse after. Yes. And so I think we need those people, and we need to be those people to be like, I hear that you're hurting. Have you thought about going to this person? Because that's come up at work sometimes. Like, one of my coworkers, we work very closely together, and she's like, have you talked to the person about it? And it's like, will you? I don't want to.
No, I tried. I mean, I gave them this look, and they should have understood everything I was communicating.
And it's nice to be, I've had that person, we challenge each other of like, be assertive, go talk about it. And the times where I've done it, and then I get stronger and I'm like, I know how to do this. And then I feel like I'm encouraging other people because I found myself saying that to other people. Have you gone and talked to that person?
That is something my friend Joni used to use at work to squash gossip. Yes. Anytime somebody would talk about another person, she would always tell us, if they're talking about another person, say, wow, what did they say when you confronted them about that issue? And it just makes people freeze because they're like, well, I didn't actually, I thought I would just tell everybody but that person, and that would fix the problem. And I think that's the issue is that when we're not interested in fixing, when we're just interested in feeling validated all the time and just feeling like our feelings are heard, our actions are validated, we want to believe that we 100% made the right decision through and through and that person is bad. I heard once that our brains actually a simplified brain just wants to make things black and white. You are wrong. You are right. You know, and it wants to just choose a good person, choose a bad person. You know, when we think about things, but empathy is the opportunity to look at both sides and to ask questions that are important. That's my daughter. Yes. She's learning how to say my name, Mom. And look at it from both perspectives and not just label people one way or the other, good or bad.
Yes.
But that we're all multifaceted, that we all have struggles that make our actions good and then make our actions bad. And that there's so much more to it. And when you can do that in your own life, even looking at people who have injured you and try to look and say, like, what did they experience that caused them to act that way? And usually if you ask and if you knew a little bit more about them and you dig a little deeper, you find that they were injured in some way.
Yes, that is so good. We're all a little injured in places, and having that
sometimes
empathy.
Something that people are saying to you, like I had someone who was saying something kind of rude about my son over and over, and I couldn't figure out, like, why is this person has to point out every time I'm around them that my son, you know, has this issue. I get it. He's a little behind, but I don't consider him. And it would just, so then every time I was around them, I was trying to be like, look what, he's grown. Look how much he's doing better. I feel like I have to, and then finally I asked them one day, like, hey, what was it like for you growing up? And I found out that the issue was talking. When they grew up, they had the same issue, but nobody invested in them. And so this person didn't think he was putting me down. He thought he was helping me. He was being the person he wished he had when he was a kid.
Yes.
He was being the investor. Yes. And he was doing it out of love and care. And the moment I realized that comment stopped being hurtful to me. It started to be, I saw how much he really cared about my son.
Yes.
And
it wasn't about being critical.
Yeah, it wasn't about, and I think that's what happens is, like, we like to just put this critical eye on others because we feel insecure about what they're saying. But guys, you got to ask more questions. You have to, you know, look at it from different angles. You have to be more curious about why things happen, because it's not that black and white. And relationships aren't just about cutting people out and bringing people closer. It's about growing through the struggle, and it's about confronting when we feel like something is in the way, and desiring to be closer to people through usually hurtful things.
We're going to have conflict throughout our relationships. It's kind of inevitable. But I think some of us maybe are more, like you talk about the black and white. I took this personality test through church several years ago, and I realized I'm 100% the type of person that likes black and white. And I'm 100% the person that is, like, they call harmonizer, where I love people. So sometimes it's really hard to go, I love you, and see the gray and be like neutral, because I want to be like, what's wrong with you? And I think, but then I look at myself and I think, wow, I don't want to be looked at that way. I don't want to be treated where my value is connected directly to what I said or did, because I'm a faulty person. So I think it takes maturity and maybe times of being hurt or hurting other people to realize each of us is made up, like you're exactly what you're saying. We all have a story. We have those places where we were hurt, and we ended up acting and reacting sometimes if we're not in our healthiest self in healing that we end up kind of creating, like, the actions we're having is from the root of that hurt. And even if we've resolved it, we still come with our own baggage, the way our families did things. But I don't believe that we're stuck in that. And I think communication, I think we both agree that there is a possibility for growth. I've seen it. I know you've seen it. You talked about it. It's a pretty cool thing when we dig in and do the work, because it is loving. It's a loving thing for the people in our lives, and it's loving for us. And then we can come with our whole selves and just love people, because we're going to find conflict. Yeah.
So that brings us to, what is the opportunity for growth? I love opportunity for growth. It's one of my favorite things is, like, my friend always says, like, I'm always, like, on something, like, not on, like, not drugs, but, like, I always have this topic. Like, that was a really bad explanation of that. But I always have, like, a topic or something that I'm, like, thinking about, or something that I'm working through. Don't worry, that's happy noises for Nova. She's really excited about what's happening over there.
Probably has my keys still. Okay. Nursery rhyme. Keep going.
But the opportunity for growth is really, I think, to ask those really challenging questions. I find I tend to be really blunt and outspoken. And sometimes I genuinely am like, I think this person needs to be asked this question. I'll ask someone a question. And I get this response from them like, whoa, don't poke that in me. I don't like that. And when I ask them how, well, how does it make you feel? Or tell me a little, they're like, their response is to get me away from that topic in their life so fast because they don't want to investigate it either. And it's like, I realize like, wow, a lot of people have come to a place in their life where like, they said no to the questions and to the investigation of why do I feel that way. They just want to be okay. They want to be fine.
Surface,
so
kind of do the things.
My husband's first, we joke because he used to just say, I'm fine. I'm like, are you sure? How was that interaction? I'm fine. And the first time he ever like admitted to something was my favorite. He just looked at me one day and said, I'm not fine.
Wow.
And that was like, oh my gosh, he's expressing himself. He literally said that words, I'm not fine. And that's his, sometimes when he needs to express it, he'll say to me, I'm not fine, which is his way of saying, look, I am going to admit there's something there to what you're poking at. I'm not quite ready to name it or jump into it or for you to, he calls it digging in him, like, what is it?
Tell me.
Dive in.
Tell yourself what's going on.
But he's like, I'm ready to at least admit that I'm not okay with this topic or this reminds me of something that's very hurtful. And he's a processor, so I have to be patient with his process and he loves to self-discover. He doesn't like to be told what to do, which is a really funny thing between us. But so I think it's really important as a person to ask yourself, are you the person who's curious about why you do the things you do? Or have you said, no, I'm fine? And have you blocked off? Have you resulted to blaming others for what you're feeling? You know, if you're feeling something, it's not other people's fault. Really, that's on you to discover. Now, maybe those feelings came from an incident or from a person hurting you, but it's your responsibility. I mean, part of asserting yourself is asserting toward yourself what is going on underneath. Be curious. Ask a friend who you trust to help you walk through it. Talk about it. I think we're just in such a culture to just pretend. And if you don't ask the right question, I mean, you could go your whole life trying to be happy and trying to, trying to find yourself at this place where you're satisfied. But you really have to these are opportunities for growth. The uncomfortable is opportunities for growth.
So maybe when we meet that person or people from, each of us, it's different, who will challenge us and help grow, help us to grow, then you're saying take that opportunity. Yes, because we've seen how cool it is to have taken those opportunities and to grow. I want so much for people around me because I know how freeing it is. I'm sure you do too. So when we meet those people who will walk with us and challenge us in a loving way because they know that our brokenness is real and we all got it, then we're going to do it together. And we're never going to have it all together, but we need community. Once again, community. Let's grow together.
And we need growth.
Yes.
And we need to do things different every once in a while. This week, I had a really, really rough week. I had something really important, really significant happen to me. And I texted you and you said, do you want me to come over? And that offer for someone to come be with you when you're devastated or when you're hurt, you're usually like, no, it's okay. I'm fine. I'll be fine. And I thought in that moment, like, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to say yes to somebody who wants to be there for me. And I'm going to tell you, like, it was such a change in the way I grew out of it and the way I processed it. And it was so impactful to me because for once, I allowed community to come around me and reached out to a few more people. And whenever people offered, I just said yes. Normally, I don't say yes to those things. I just want to hide in my house with me, my husband, and my kids, like my little circle, And I just want to shut everyone else out and pretend like they don't understand me. But instead, I did the opposite, and I already, have felt such a growth. And not only that, but I felt like God speak to me through the healing of what I went through, and I felt like. So when people ask me, like, how are you doing? I'm like, I'm doing really good. Like, it goes so much faster than when we bury it and we push it down and we just
isolate.
We try to just get through it. And that becomes just this cycle where you shut every voice out of your life and you don't grow from it. And then guess what? Something's eventually going to dig it up later. It's just not going to be a very pleasant way. So
I'm so glad that I was able to be there for you, and that opened you up to be real with people and your emotions. So that's huge. Yay, community. We're squeezing her hand right now because we're right next to each other, and pretty sure I've been hitting your leg this whole time. So yeah, community's great. Yes.
So we want to challenge you guys, of course, every week to take this topic and really assert yourself, but ask yourself those questions. Ask yourself, how can you assert yourself a little more? Maybe there's something you need to confront. Maybe there's someone you know that you can talk to about a good way to confront that issue, help you break it down. And I think if you have a heart to bring you and that person back together, your heart is really to resolve, not just to point out the flaw, but to resolve. I think it's going to go well. And if it goes really poorly, I don't know, send me a message. I'm sorry. I'll send you a Starbucks card. I don't know. $5. Sorry. I'll buy you a coffee. But really challenge yourself. You know, I think the best part about doing these podcasts that Whitney and I have talked about is really seeing people change their lives. Not just listen and be like, wow, that was really cool. But like, let it affect you a little bit. Let it change you.
You're worthy. Your needs are just as important as other people's, and we're worthy enough to show up and ask for those in a loving, graceful way. So let's do that. Let's all do that. Thanks for listening to 30, Wordy, and Friendship. See you next time.